So another very important strategy that I employed when learning Italian was selective learning. So this is probably the most important strategy that accounted for my level of comfort, my level of fluency that is seen in the video that I made. I appear to be speaking pretty fluently, pretty comfortably with a decent accent and such. And selective learning played a huge part in that, in whatever fluency I have shown in that video. So, with selective learning, basically, I designed my study to suit my goal. And in this case, my goal, although yes, my ultimate goal is to learn the Italian language, my goal for that month, my main goal was to produce a video of me speaking. And therefore, I tailored my study to that goal. I don't want to be misunderstood. Don't think that I just learned Italian just to win a contest. I kind of used the contest as an excuse to learn Italian. So ultimately my goal is to learn the language, but just to prove point, I'm saying that my goal is to produce a video of me speaking. So I knew right away that in that video I was going to have to I was going to require a few certain skills. What was I going to talk about? Well, I was going to talk about myself. I wasn't going to talk about other people. I was going to talk about languages. I was going to talk about language learning and how I learned and how I studied and why I learned and why I studied. So, I tailored all my learning to those subjects. Now, what didn't I learn? Well, I didn't learn how to tell the weather. I didn't learn, I didn't waste my time learning specific vocab for topics that I wouldn't cover in the video. So, like weather. I didn't learn how to tell time. I didn't learn how to tell the weather. I didn't learn how to order food at a restaurant specifically. I didn't learn how to buy a ticket and take a train from Rome to Parma. I didn't learn how to describe the political situation in Syria. So my point is, I didn't learn all these specific vocab for topics that I wouldn't be talking about in the video. What I did learn was vocab related to languages, vocab related to language learning, language study, vocab related to school, common verbs. Grammatically, what did I learn? I learned a lot grammatically. I learned how to conjugate all verbs, all types of verbs. I learned, I don't want to say learn, but I'm familiar with all the tenses, all the moods, and all the conjugations. I'll talk more about what familiarity means. I learned how to use prepositions. I learned how to use pronouns, indirect object pronouns, direct object pronouns. So I learned how to express myself naturally, using my own way of speech. So with selective learning, I didn't waste my time learning, specialized vocab. Instead, I focused my vocab on languages. My grammar was all-encompassing. I learned as much grammar as possible because with more grammar, the more sentences you can make. And the accent wasn't really a problem for me. I didn't really spend too much time actively trying to reproduce the accent, so that wasn't a big problem. But selective learning mostly has to do with vocab and verbs. So selective learning definitely was useful. The third technique I used was something called interleaving. I just recently learned the term for this. I didn't know it was a term, but I saw it in a video made by Steve Kaufman a few weeks ago. So interleaving basically is, as opposed to learning something within a certain period of time by rote. For example, take this table of contractions. So the opposite of interleaving would be like concentrated rote learning. So if I did concentrated rote learning, I would memorize this table, which is not what I did. Interleaving basically means you learn one thing, then you go explore another topic, then revise and come back to this thing, and then keep going, explore, and then if you forget something, come back and look at it again. So this is what I did. So when I was writing these pages, for example, these pages where I wrote how I speak, for example, if I wanted to say something like of the, right? So the, il, right? So I would know that that's del. But maybe I forgot how to form the contraction for the and lo, which is also a definite article. So maybe I forgot that that's dello. So I would go back and look at that table of contractions and see that it's dello. I wouldn't try to memorize a plus il is al, a plus lo is allo, a plus la is alla. I wouldn't do that. I used it as a reference. So when I needed it, I used it, and when I looked something up, I tried hard to remember it. I think this is good. This is a better technique. I also use this with verb conjugations. I cannot tell you how many times I looked up the conjugation for what I would do is just basically I'd Google fare conjugation, and it would take me to this about.com page, and I just look for every verb, for so many verbs. I do this, and it would just give me this entire table. So what I did not do is try to memorize io faccio, tu fai, lui, lei fa, noi facciamo, voi fate, loro fanno. I didn't do that. What I did was, how do I say I'm doing? Oh, io faccio. And then I'd go back and I'd write, right? So then maybe I would forget to say, oh, how do I say we're doing now? Noi facciamo. Another thing about verbs I want to mention, I didn't spend a lot of time learning the loro conjugations, or even the voi conjugations or the noi conjugations, because in the video I was mostly going to speak about myself. So the most important conjugation I had to focus on was yo. Another conjugation that you'd encounter a lot in reading is the lei conjugation, and sometimes the tu conjugation. Occasionally the fate, the voi conjugation, which is the you plural conjugation. But the two conjugations that I focused on most was first person singular and third person singular. So for example, with the passato prossimo, which is the past tense, I focused mostly on ho fatto, I did, and ha fatto, he did, or he has done, or I have done, right? So I didn't waste my time. If I forgot how to say they did, or they will be doing, or something like that, it's okay. I didn't put the pressure on myself to memorize those conjugations. The most important conjugations for me to learn were the yo, first person singular, and lui, lei, third person singular conjugation. So that's the thing about verbs. So again with the interleaving, so maybe I'd be reading this article, right? By the way, this is from Luca Lampariello's blog. Una delle domande. So here's a contraction right here. Delle domande. So I know this means of the plural. So maybe if I recognize that this is a contraction immediately. So to further strengthen that idea in my mind, I'd go back to this chart and look at it to make sure I'm right. So I look at where is it? Delle, there it is, the plural, right? Le is plural, so I know right away di, le, delle. So when I see it in the article, when I see it here, where is it? When I see it here, I make that connection that's a contraction, and I go back and look it up in here. That further strengthens that bond in my head. That further strengthens that neural pathway that'll help me remember those things, instead of rote memorizing this without context. Here I have context. I see it in an article that I'm reading. So then when I see it in context, I wonder, I'm asking myself, I'm thinking about it. What is this? What is this a combination of? Then I go look in the chart and I see that there's a combination of di and le to make delle. And there the memory gets strengthened. So those are the strategies. The final thing I wanted to talk about was the order in which I went about learning this. So I think I'll make that a third part to the video.